Are you having fun?
Yeah, I really am. It's really interesting to listen to people's responses.
I've been really taken with how earnest everyone is and the intentionality that people really bring to it.
So what's the third question?
The third question is, which of these values, freedom, human dignity, love, peace, social justice, or truth, resonates with you, your political philosophy, or your faith the most?
Fairness, love. My tradition talks about love and charity being the same thing. Faith, hope, and love, or faith, hope, and charity. And I spend a lot of time thinking about how do we do things in a way that is fair, that is recognizing those amongst us who are least blessed.
For me, the most important value is that of love, which comes from that great commandment to love God, self, and neighbor.
In my faith tradition, I really resonate with love. I think that's the way I want to work out my ethic in the world and the way I would like to behave in the world and the way that's really a dominant value for my faith community. We talk a lot about that. What does it mean to be loving in the world? I have a little bit of trouble sometimes. I don't think I value that so much with the government. Maybe I should, but I don't. What I really want from the government, that's when it really resonates to me in a political sense, the value is human dignity. I really want the government to be a defender of people's dignity.
Social justice is the great call of the prophets. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Amos, Micah, they called us to go forth and help. What does Isaiah say? Beware of be aware of giving what you have to the poor, the needy, the downtrodden, the widow, the child who's in the dust.
My values were formed based upon a childhood that really addressed, among all of us, the fairness and the sense of social justice in our neighborhood and in our community. And somehow I connected that in my childhood as being a Catholic. What Catholics do is we find a sense of contribution to our community and to seek social justice. And those are very much part of my values. In fact, I've lived most of my life with those values.
Well, freedom. Freedom. To me, God authored the right to choose. A woman's right to choose doesn't bother me. I just want to be truthful.
Micah asks the question, what does God want of us? And it's very clear and very succinct. And he's real clear. He says what God wants is for us to do justice and to love kindness or mercy, depending on the translation, and to walk humbly with our God.
To me, there is an additional step, an additional value, and a responsibility that we all have. If you believe in values strongly enough, you will take some action, no matter how minimal, rather than pray and rather than hope and rather than meditate on these values. I believe that a value that I admire and respect is some action, some effort on the part of us to advance and move those values forward.
Jewish belief is always tikkun olam, repairing the world, and I think that's what I work at a lot.
I would suppose that human dignity is one that resonates for me because my current concern is that our culture has much less than consider human dignity of importance. We enjoy berating and criticizing and humiliating one another to such a point that we're not even able to speak of dignity at almost any level.
Is going to be the issue of social justice. The reason that that's an easy value for me to get at is because of the fact that for me it's very visceral. It's an issue that's about fairness, equality, adequate food, adequate housing, adequate, people having health care, safety from violence and aggression, caring for the natural environment. These are all for me very visceral. I mean, I'm a parent. My daily activities are around providing housing, providing food, ensuring the safety of my children, of my family. I mean, these are issues that I interface with every day, so they're very, very close to home for me.
I know that the idea of social justice has become more and more important to me, and I have begun to redefine social justice issues, trying to separate it out from what you might just call charity, and recognizing that that there's a lot that goes on in the world that is more of a justice issue than a charity issue. And I hate that same connection that because I'm conservative. I don't care about you know, what's going on in different, not only parts of the world, but neighborhoods that are different than mine.
Well, I would say, you know, that the abstracts do not, like love, peace, justice, and so on. But the particulars would, and anything touching upon, you know, the dignity of this human person would be a motivating force for me. And I cite, as I always do, you know, the fulcrum issue of the Latino community among us. I think that they have a great capacity to recall and perhaps regain the conscience of America. I think certainly since the since the Tonkin Bay incident, let's say, to take a date, I think there has been, you know, an imperialistically motivated drive within the American psyche to say that dominating of power is a solution to all problems and to all international relationships.
Well, I guess love, I mean, it all comes down to love of, you know, your brother, sister, all of that. I guess that would be the overruling one, because all of them obviously are important.
Love. Love is a foundational thing. Like I said, you know, God has given us capacity to love all. So love thy neighbor as thyself. And when I love my neighbor, I'm not going to do nothing to harm that neighbor. But I'm going to tell that neighbor the truth in love.
Social justice is one that really resonates with me, mainly because I believe that the root cause of a lot of inequities in human dignity, a lot of inequities, or a lot of the problems with achieving peace, and it really has to do with poverty.
Yeah, but I mean, the other issues are important. I mean, there are a lot of people that need help, and they need. I mean, some of them need the government to step in and have some social justice. But I think that Miles and I both believe that it's better to give people a hand up than a hand out.
Well, the main one that resonates with me is the love, and coming from a Christian tradition, it's the great commandment. You know, love God, love your neighbor as you love yourself. You know, that resonates with me at a very fundamental level. That when I'm coming from a compassionate place, a place that is serving not so much me, but the people around me, then I'm right with my world.
I think love is certainly what we're taught in the New Testament and Christ, and that we love God and we love our neighbor as ourselves. And I think we can't do that without enabling them the freedom and creating some semblance of social justice.
Just the dignity of a human being is something that's very important to me. And when it comes to issues of homelessness, and you know, I think that's something that I have a real heart for, because I see these people as not being valued, as being hidden people.
Well, it just is interesting, though, the difference in the States and Canada in terms of this evangelical subculture, because in the States, you might not call yourself Christian, but there's a shared set of values still in the States in many regards. And so you step outside of the evangelical subculture, you're not a person of faith. There are a lot of cultural values that are the same with people who are Christians. And within the evangelical Christians in the States and Canada, their cultural values are going to be almost identical. But in Canada, you step out of that evangelical world, and the cultural values are very different. And because the church then is so small, that's one of the reasons that there's so much tolerance within the church. That's the one virtue that's different in the American church from the Canadian church, is the Canadian Christians are very tolerant. We are tolerant as a culture, because to get anything done, we're going to have to work with these other faith groups that aren't a complete fit.